This is the story of Tulsi, an amazing woman. She was 10 years old when she was on holiday with her mum, her dad, and her little brother, when unfortunately she was involved in a plane crash that killed all of her immediate family. She also received multiple injuries to her body, including severe burns. But she never has allowed this to stop her in life. She's full of hope, she's full of determination, she's certainly full of strength. And she has learned not only to accept her scars, but to actually love them. I think she is one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. This is Tulsi's story. What memories do you hold of your mum, dad, and little brother?
For me, I mean, I'm lucky that I had really good childhood, and I have really fond memories. Of course, that like just I guess your average family. Just mom. Obviously, for me, it was my mom, dad, and my brother. We used to go on lots of trips. Very connected with family. I mean, obviously, being sort of Indian heritage, it's like it's all about family and gazillion cousins and aunties and uncles. So, I remember a lot of that. So always being around community, um, some function or another, so it's very wholesome. Like if I can describe it that way, it would be really wholesome.
The holiday that you had on the 14th of February 1990 was in India. And this was when you were traveling on a plane with your mum, dad, and your little brother. And the plane crashed. Unfortunately, your mum, dad, and your little brother died in the accident. You were very young at the time. You were only 10 years old. But what do you remember from that day?
So my memory of that particular day, obviously it's a mixture in the sense that I was fighting with my little brother because I wanted to sit by the window seat, and he got his way being the younger one. And I think the excitement of being able to see blue skies and green fields is, what I really remember of that day. Because obviously living in the UK, we just see grey cloudy skies. Um, so obviously it was just fascinating. And that's all I really remember is just me arguing with him and, I guess the excitement. And the flight from Mumbai to Bangalore is just a short one. So, it wasn't like the anticipation of food or anything like that was there. I think it was literally just me arguing with him to sit by the window seat, seeing the blue skies and the green fields. And that's literally all I do remember of that day.
Mhm. Do you remember your parents on that day at all?
Not so much. Like if I had to go back and, kind of recall what they were wearing, like I couldn't really picture that. I do remember that my dad was sitting next to me and my brother was by the window, so obviously I was in the middle, and my mum was sitting in the next sort of set of seats, so there was an aisle between us.
Mhm.
But that's literally like all I remember of the day.
What is your next memory after the accident?
So the sort of what I remember after the accident is hearing my grandmother's voice, which was quite surreal because I'd left her back in the UK. So we had now been in India about just over a week.
Mhm.
So I remember obviously leaving my grandma behind back in the UK, but she was talking to me like someone is talking to you right next to you, not on the phone. It was very clear. And for my grandma, who, was very sort of, as you'd call them, iron ladies, very strong and very composed, but she was actually crying and it was quite surreal. So I'm thinking, in my head, I actually thought she's come on the plane to surprise us. So in my head, I'm still in the plane and that she's come to surprise us. So she must have sat somewhere else and we didn't know. But she's crying, saying, your mum, dad, and Kamlesh, which is my brother, have passed away in the accident, and you are in hospital and you look different.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, well, how can I look different if I'm on the plane? Like, I
Mhm.
haven't done anything.
Mhm.
This is not registered what's happened, of course. So when she said that they passed away, even that didn't register because that didn't really mean anything to me
Mhm.
because I'm still fighting with my brother. So,
Mhm.
I couldn't put the two and two together, so to speak.
Mhm. When did it
And
begin to register?
I think for me, it didn't for a while because then the sort of next set of memories upon that is flying back to the UK in the air ambulance, talking to another family who'd again been in the accident,
Mhm.
and that the gentleman from that family was the one who pulled me out of the plane. And so we've flown back to the UK now. Then I'm obviously being transported to Billericay, St Andrews Burns and Plastic Unit in Essex, because that would have been my nearest. And I'm now greeted with my cousins and aunties and uncles, again, kind of crying, and very similar sort of energy as probably as my grandma. I think, why are these guys crying? So now instantly I'm like, now they're on the plane and they've come to surprise us. But they're telling me the same news, you know, like, you've been involved in an accident, you look different, don't worry, we're going to take care of you, that, you know, that sort of thing. And I'm thinking, but why do they need to take care of me? Like, my mum and dad take care of me. And then, you know, I guess, again, being in and out of sedation and, you know, like heavy medication and in and out of surgery, it didn't really register. And because my eyes were bandaged, so I couldn't really see anyone, so I couldn't really see what had happened to me. And I'm saying about maybe 4 to 6 weeks post-accident, so, you know, getting to the burns unit and everything, they removed the bandages from my eyes and, you know, would you like to see yourself in the mirror? And I was really enthusiastic, because I'm like, of course I would love to, you know. What is this, that looking different? What does it mean? Because to me, looking different would be, you know, you change your clothes or your hairstyle or something. Like, so I was really enthusiastic, because internally I still felt like the same person. Talking to my family, you know, I was quite like a boisterous character, and like a lot of humor, and you know, I guess I really was wanting to be like my granddad and my dad, you know. So like I was very, I guess I had a lot of masculine energy in that respect. So I was just like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with me, come on, bring it on, type of thing. And then when the sort of nurse brings a mirror to me and I look back at myself in the mirror, I actually thought somebody drew that face on.
What did it physically look like?
So it looked just like this red, raw, sort of round face, so to speak, because I had to shave my hair, because it obviously been damaged quite a lot. So they shaved my hair. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even have my hair. The face was literally just red and round, and obviously really raw. And I did literally think somebody drew that face on. And then the person in the mirror who was sort of blinking and, you know, moving their mouth, I realized that's me. Because I even remember saying, is this some sort of joke? And as my mouth was moving, you know, I recognized it in the mirror. I was like, whoa. And then I looked down at my left hand, which you can see is quite scarred. It had like metal pins coming out of the fingers to straighten them. And it was bandaged. And again, you can see some of the scars looking really red and raw. And that's when I realized, like, whoa, something has happened. But be it naive or maybe optimistic, I really did feel that in a year's time, these are all going to go away. It's like some sort of magic cloth, so to speak, you know.
Were you scared?
I don't recall being scared, but I think I was just like, this is not a big deal. It's going to be done in a year. It's all good. And on respect, thinking like, obviously, where's my parents? So by this point, it has registered that something has happened and they're not here. As I'm guessing now, as a protection barrier, is that I convinced myself that they lost their passport and they're still in India and they're going to come back for me. So that always stayed with me, and I suppose it was like, I'm going to get better for them. It was almost like that was my driving force. And maybe they don't know this is what I look like, that's why they can't come back for me. It was like all those kind of things I used to say to myself.
And afterwards then you moved in with your grandparents. What support did they give you?
So my grandparents, you know, they obviously tried the best, because their youngest son was 21 at the time, so they've done the whole parenting thing, and you know, but here they are with a 10-year-old girl who, like, what do you do? So obviously their way of parenting was how they would have done it so many years ago. So it's obviously a different generation. But they took care of all the physical needs. But I think the emotional support, like I would have needed, they weren't really equipped for that. And that is part cultural and part obviously the generation as well. So if anything I was experiencing, I couldn't really tell them. But I think if it was my parents, I would have been able to tell them. Like, for example, the bullying or somebody staring at me or, or whatever's going on for me. But because I couldn't tell them that, I suffered a lot in silence with loads of things that I was going through. But in terms of the physical needs, they took care of all of that, like all my hospital appointments, looking after my skin grafts and which like when I had to put pressure garments on or bandages, they took care of all of those things. But I think it's like I said, it's just the emotional support that they just couldn't give me.
And you mentioned there about the bullying. So how soon after did you go back to school?
So I went to school. My accident happened in February. I got discharged in June. And then I had like about a month left of primary school before the summer holidays. And I was also in the final year of my primary. So I had about a month. But in that month, I would literally only go in the morning because afternoons I'd have to go hospital. So be it for physio or, checkups and that. So I didn't really have a lot of time in school.
Were you treated differently after the accident in school?
I think the only thing was with school, like I had a really good set of friends and stuff, and I had a day release in between my stay in hospital. Because I just felt like me, and obviously my friends all looked the same, like, how I left them back in Feb. I'm like, what? Let's catch up where we left off. But their friend has changed. Their friend doesn't look like that girl who left in February. She sounds the same, but she doesn't look the same. At the age of 10, 11, how do you cope with somebody looking so different? For me, my school was like my safety ground because I was so supportive and I didn't experience any bullying, nor in my primary or nor in my secondary. But where the bullying did start was the journey to and from school, the journey to and from hospital, or anywhere outside of like my home or the school environment. And in hospital, obviously everyone was just treating me as me because the nurses and the doctors, they don't see the scars obviously because they just see the person. For them, this is their job, right? Like they see people with burns all the time. So where they just treated me as me, when I got discharged, I just thought this is how it is, right? Like everyone is just going to treat me as me and that's fine. But when that bullying did start, like the name calling or people crossing the road in case they caught something, or you're so ugly, or people throwing, like kids throwing things at me to see if like what kind of emotional reaction I will have. Would I stand up to them, sorry. Then it hit me that I was different.
How did that make you feel?
I think for me, I feel really isolated. And, I guess anyone who's ever experienced any form of bullying, that is the first thing that you feel. You feel isolated. You feel like you're the only one going through that and that no one will understand. And then it's also a point where you feel scared. So if you've told somebody, what if you're in trouble or you don't want to bring attention to yourself? So that's why I couldn't tell anyone what I was experiencing. Because I didn't want them to say, well, get over it, it's just one of those things. So I kept all of that hidden. So I guess I just suffered in silence. But then, like the words like ugly, for example, soon became part of my narrative. I soon learned to adopt that word as if it was almost created for me. Because that's how I saw myself.
And I know that you're around 20 years old when you started to get depressed as well. How dark did the depression take you?
For me, I guess, I think with depression, it's not like one day switch for here I am, I'm depressed. You know, it's like an ongoing sort of sequence of events, and it hits you in such a way. For me, it was coming back from Guernsey. I was working there, I had a great sort of job there, it was lovely. Came back trying to look for a job.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it started, because it was a constant no. Applied for a job in a hotel in London, wanted to be front of house. And when the letter came back, you were unsuccessful because your face doesn't fit this company. I had to read that again. Sorry?
They actually said that in a letter.
Yeah, it was in a letter, and it was like, and at first I didn't think face as in the literal face. I just thought, you're not probably part of the branding or something like that, And when I read it again, it sort of hit me like, wow, they couldn't have someone like me in their reception because they couldn't deal with what their clientele would be thinking or not, because I don't look like their brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously then going into the retail industry, like you were doing a Saturday job, in a high street type of thing. So again, handing out CVs, constant rejection, no. And I really took that as personal to the way I looked. And then I gave up, I was like, well, I'm not going to find a job. So I started to sit at home and literally do nothing. And in that was where the cogs were constantly ticking inside, and the negative narrative just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So even if someone, like, say, example, I'd met you and you said, oh, you look beautiful, that wouldn't even have sunk in. That would have just sort of slid off like, water for ducks back, so to speak. I couldn't resonate with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd built up this negative narrative, and in that, I had abused alcohol, had abused drugs in some sense, and none of it was kind of diluting the pain. But eating was, so I started to eat quite in secretive as well, and he like lots of snacks. So where I had, like, for example, then I went to sign on just like job seekers, so I'd have money and I'd buy lots of snacks and I'd eat them, and they'd make me feel good, and I didn't notice the weight piling on. But obviously the clothes were getting tighter and tighter, and in the height of my depression, as I would call it, would have been around the time I was 20, 21. I was so big, like I didn't recognize me in the mirror.
And there was a sort of another blow to your life in the second year of university, and this is when you got a diagnosis. What was that diagnosis?
Yeah, and so this again, university came at a point, it was like, well, I'm going to change direction. Was really into it, and then I started to feel really ill, and went to the GP. My blood pressure was crazy high. For someone at the age of 26, it was ridiculously high. He fast-tracked me to A&E, which was amazing, and he goes, I don't want you to alarm you, but something to do with your kidneys. I was like, whoa, okay. Got seen by the A&E team. They said, we need to do a biopsy. We need to see what's going on with your kidneys. Now, bearing in mind, I've never really experienced any urine infections or anything related to the kidneys before. And then they explained, and obviously with your high blood pressure, it could be hand in hand, or it just could be an infection. We don't know. Then the biopsy results came, and they said you've got end-stage renal failure. To me, all I heard was, you are dying. I didn't hear the rest of what my consultant was saying, i.e., you can go on dialysis, you can have a transplant. I didn't hear that. Literally all I heard was, you are dying. And I was like, I cannot go like this. Having survived a plane crash is one thing, but to go like this in the middle of doing my degree, like, are you kidding me? No chance.
And it's important to say as well that this diagnosis was totally unrelated to the plane accident as well.
Completely, yeah, like there's no connection at all. And, and one of the things that they did say to me was, it's a silent killer amongst young people. So the fact that I caught it at the stage I caught it was was a miracle in itself.
It was then 2009 when you had your kidney transplant.
Hmm.
Afterwards, you were quite ill for a period of time. During that illness and that time where you were feeling really ill, what did that time teach you about life?
Oh, that was my biggest lesson in life, I think, for sure. Because I had my transplant, it was great. I was really well. Even the doctors were really amazed at like how quick I just bounced back. And I was literally walking as soon as the anesthetic was wearing off,
Mm-hmm.
which they were like, "How are you doing this?" And I could only put it down to really good, strong core.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my determination that I need to get out of here. And at the time, I was renovating my house. So for me, I was like, get this operation done with and let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And but what happened was I was so ill because my kidney had a cyst and it was leaking. In and out of hospital throughout literally 2009. There were moments I really wanted to give up. And
Mm-hmm.
this is the first time I've ever wanted to give up.
Mm-hmm.
Because prior to that, although life was tough, I guess I found some sort of reason to wake up every day.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I was like, if this is what having a transplant means, I don't really want this.
Mm-hmm.
This is intense. But it's one of those nights where, I mean, if you've ever stayed in hospital and it's quite eerie at night, but you can hear some machines going off beeping and that. And this image of Krishna came in, that it's a Hindu deity. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm neither nor religious or sort of that connected at this point. I'm like, whoa, I thought I was hallucinating. And being on high doses of steroids and immunosuppressants, hallucination is one of the side effects.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was so real, like I could literally almost palpate this figure, so to speak. And all it said was, whatever you can't control, surrender onto me. And I'm like, what does that even, like, I'm literally looking around going, what is that? What do you mean surrender? Like, what is surrender? And it's not like surrender was in my vocabulary. So I thought, what does that mean? And I was like, whatever you can't control, surrender. And that really hit me because I was really self-persecuting myself in that I'm doing all the right things. Why am I in and out of hospital? Even the doctors were so confused. At this stage, they had literally put their hands up and go, we just got to watch what happens now. Because they were so puzzled. They've tried this, they've tried that, they've done this, they've done that. Everything else is fine, except these results keep changing. And where they didn't know what to do, I didn't know what to do. That's where everyone became quite helpless. But when I realized that what goes on inside my body, even I can't control that on a cellular level, that's when things start to change for me on how I saw things. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't overnight, but it's how I live my life now. Like, whatever I can't control, I surrender. I don't sit there and worry about things I can't control. And that helped me a lot from 2009 to now about everything.
And do you now accept your scars?
Completely. Like, that was one of the things that I felt was hindering me from a lot of things. I blamed my scars for everything. But what it was I had to learn to accept them, that they're here to stay. There is no magic cloth where they were going to go away. And I took power back on how I look at my scars, not how others see them. And I call them like my gems now. So they decorate my body in a beautiful way.
Do you love your scars?
I can't even imagine not having them, because there was a time then, I met camouflage practitioner at an event, and just for sort of a laugh, I said, I'd love to see what it looks like on my body. So on my left arm, we started to sort of cover it. And then I started to have this sort of almost panic attack where I couldn't breathe. And she literally thought I had a reaction to the makeup. I said, no, get this off. She goes, what's happened? I said, I can't see the colors and the textures. You need to get this off. I can't. And I really got myself into such a tizzy that I literally like, just get it off, get it off. And the moment that the sort of baby wipes started to go over the arm and, you know, the makeup was coming off, I felt my heartbeat come down because I could see my arm again. And that's when the biggest realization come was, I'm not here to cover anything up. And even with makeup, when I went to a counter and the artist presumed I'd gone to get concealer, I said, no, I've come here to just find makeup to enhance my face, not to conceal. And for her, it threw her back, and she goes, that's so amazing as an artist, because forget someone with scars, but she goes, on a daily basis, all we get is, I need this covering up, I need that covering up. What do you do to do this? And here you are just saying, you're here to enhance. And that's when I took power back.
When you look at yourself now and even here in the monitor, do you see the beauty in yourself physically?
Completely. Yeah. You know, like with everybody, we have days when we don't feel so good about ourselves, and it's just because it's an internal feeling, not because of the external. No matter how you do your hair, it will never be right. No matter how crisp your clothes would be, it just won't look right. But I accept that's more of an internal feeling for the day rather than because of the external. Was years ago, I would want to change everything. Even if it didn't feel right, I'd still want to change it and then persecute myself. Whereas now, I don't do that. And my thing is, my version of beautiful is my version. It's not yours, you know. And
how do you define beautiful?
In living in your own true authentic self. For me, like, I live in my own truth. I live in, you know, what I say is what I do. And I live authentically to who I've always meant to be, you know. I'm very much soul driven. I'm very much driven by why I've come here on this planet. And that's what keeps me going, and that's what I do.
Have you had a chance to grieve for your family?
Yeah, I did, and I took control back of that, because, you know, grief is such a personal thing as well, and I think that's really important to share. There's no one size fits all, and there's no like one defining moment that I'm over it. Life changes once you've had any sort of loss. Life changes, of course, you know, and you have a new normal, so to speak. So as culture goes, it was almost like a day to mourn and really be morbid. But I look at dates as like today, you know, whatever the date might be, say it's your birthday, but you wake up not feeling 100%, and you can't force yourself to enjoy the day, even though it's your birthday. But, you know, 14th of March, for example, you might just be like, yeah, wow, let's celebrate. And that day may not have no significance to you. So when I took back control of 14th of February for me, I turned it into the day is, you know, it's Valentine's Day. It's a day about love, albeit, okay, it's one day for commercial, but the whole idea is it's about love. And I took it back by going, no, I'm going to celebrate the day. I'm going to go out for dinner. I'm going to, I don't know, spoil somebody with something, with like roses or whatever. I'm going to take that day back. And that's how I did it. But it took a long time. 20 years it took me to get that day back, because up until that time, I grieved as was expected of me. Be morbid, be sad, just be depressed all day, and but I wasn't feeling that. So internally I was fighting that. But just to keep pace and what was the norm, I acted really sad. But I wasn't. Of course I missed them, but that date, you know, I took power with that date. And with that, where I've been celebrating for the last 10 years now on Valentine's Day, I feel that's my way of grieving. That's my way of saying, yes, the incident happened. Yes, the loss has happened, but I haven't really lost them. because I believe that they're guiding me to be this better person. They're guiding me to show me what my true life path is. So have they really gone? Yes, in the physical, I can't touch them, see them, but I'm a feely person, so I can actually feel them.
What would you want them to know about you today?
Well, I just want them to know I'm grateful for the fact they gave birth to me. I'm grateful for the fact they chose my name, because it's a really strong name. For years and years, I didn't even like it. And I want them to know that, I'm just grateful for the whole thing, that the whole way life has planned out. I'm just so grateful for all of it.
And for everything in your life and everything that you've achieved, what are you most proud of?
I think the most thing that I'm really proud of is taking back my power and my control, where I'd given it away to others to judge me and all of that. And that wasn't because I did that, consciously. It's just growing up. It's all about other people, expectations and that. But the moment I took that back and I owned who I am, I would say that would be my most proudest accomplishment, because that's all I've been fighting internally. Working in campaigning for the beauty and fashion industry, we're consistently trying to get people to accept us. And that's all well and good, but have you actually accepted yourself? And because I have, I know I can advocate that better than say I did 5 years ago, for example. And yeah, I'd say that.
And I want to finish on this, Tulsi, because when I was looking into your background and the things that you've done, I came across your website. And when you click on your website and you go into it, there's a beautiful picture of you and there's a quote below it. And I've got the quote here. And the quote reads, "You may be climbing a mountain, but think of the view when you reach the top." So I want to ask you, what does that view look like today?
My view is stunning. Um, in my head, my view is like this beautiful ocean, sort of teal color. The waves are just coming and going. Silver sand, palm trees, and it's just. I guess for me, it's like Mother Earth. She had this time to breathe, to restore herself, and that's us as well. We need that. We need that sort of retreat moment to just restore ourselves. Then we can go back and do what we need to. And I feel, for me, that's what it is. I'm really optimistic. I'm very positive. I'm driven by love and compassion. And for me, that's what I'm here to deliver. So for me, I can see, it sounds really weird. I can see world peace. I can actually visualize world peace. I can.
Well, talking to you today, I can just see the beauty in you and everything that you say. And I just want to say to you, please continue giving that beauty out to the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.